Giving a presentation can be daunting, even for the most experienced presenter, and most professionals will be expected to do it at some point in their career. From large company-wide presentations to smaller presentations just for your team, here are a few things to remember to not only make your presentation impactful and get your message across, but also mitigate those nerves that will inevitably arise. The most important thing you can do is to prepare. Think through who your audience is and what you want them to take away from your presentation. Consider what data you want to present, how to tell your data story, and how to visualize it in a unique way. Plan time in your schedule to think through those steps. Write out your talking points and create your presentation in Google Slides, PowerPoint, or other presentation software. Planning out what you're going to say and how you're going to say it is half the battle. When preparing your presentation, it may be tempting to include everything you would like to tell your audience on your slides, but that's not a good idea. Essentially, you want your slides to simply highlight what you're speaking about, not to carry the weight of the presentation itself. You will be the storyteller, and your slides are there to support you and to stress the main points of your story. Use only keywords or short bullet points on your slides to do a simple visualization of what you're saying. Otherwise, if you have a ton of text, your audience will be focused on reading your slides and will stop paying attention to you. To help prevent you from putting too much text on your slides, keep your font size to 28 or larger. Anything that's smaller can get hard to read on a slide, and that way you will stick to the main points. Focusing on the main points is also important for your visuals. Declutter them and use them to highlight what you're saying. Otherwise, your audience will be distracted trying to decipher your graphs. Also, don't read from your slides. Use the presenter notes feature to see your notes during a presentation. Have summaries or bullet points on note cards, or get to the point where you know what you want to say well enough to let your slides be a memory tool for you. When you start, open with something that will catch your audience's attention. A rhetorical question related to your findings, a story, or an interesting fact. Grab the audience straight away and start them on the journey with you. Don't spend too much time on ramping up or introductions to the topic, as your audience may drift off. Start with the problem you are trying to solve or the goal you want to hit. Then describe what actions you took, explain what you found after you took those actions, and finally tell how those findings will impact future decisions. Make your conclusion as impactful as your opening. Circle back to what you mentioned in your opening by either answering the questions, finishing the story, or adding an interesting fact the presentation unearthed. Always tell your audience you'll take questions at the end and then do so. Nothing derails a presentation faster than stopping in the middle to answer questions that will probably be explained by your story. What about nerves? Nerves are normal and may actually help propel you through your presentation. Remember, you'll be the most nervous just before the presentation, but those nerves will fade once you begin. Also, remember that most people won't notice that you're nervous at all. One way to mitigate nerves at the very beginning of a presentation is to have an anchor or something that grounds you so you can start. It might be pausing to take a deep breath, deliberately taking a sip of water before you speak, or seeking out a friend in the audience. Completing this simple task can build your confidence before you even begin. Another way to mitigate your nerves is to practice your presentation before you give it. This will familiarize you with and boost your confidence in what you'll say the day of. You can also practice intonation in various spots when you want to hit home your point or see if anything just doesn't work or is too confusing when spoken out loud. I've given many presentations in my career, and very often I will practice my full presentation out loud at home. I find that it helps me a lot, and while I always think that I will easily roll through it, often discover stumbling blocks by practicing. I really think it's worth it to go through this extra step, especially if it's for a presentation I'm a bit nervous about. Practicing will also give you a sense of how long your presentation will take. You most likely won't have an unlimited amount of time, And you don't want to find yourself running out of time and having to rush through the end of your presentation. Time yourself and edit accordingly. Practicing will also help you decide which movements to include. If you're giving your presentation while standing, don't grip the podium, but also don't wander and pace as you talk, or talk with your hands, which may distract your audience. Some public speakers build deliberate movements, like a step forward into their presentation to highlight their points. When you're giving your presentation, don't talk quickly. You may do so because you're nervous and want to get through it, but the audience will notice and may not keep up. Slow down. Allow for pauses to not only let the information sink in, but also to calm yourself as you go. Slowing down and being deliberate in what you say can also help eliminate distracting ums and ahs. Always be sure to maintain some kind of eye contact with the audience, or make the audience think you're maintaining some kind of eye contact. Having a friend in the audience or someone who's attentive and nodding along is always helpful to concentrate on. But pick a few people in different spots of the room and look back and forth between them. Or look just over their heads. This keeps the audience engaged and along for the journey. Even though you practiced and have a general sense of how long your presentation will go, always have some kind of clock inside so that you can adjust as needed and leave time for Q&A. Always be mindful of any tech issues that may pop up as well, and be sure to answer the following questions before your presentation. What's the room setup where you're going to be giving your presentation? Does it have a screen for your presentation? How will you get your presentation up on the screen? Will you have to bring your laptop and connect to the screen? Does the room have an in-room computer you need to use instead? If you'll be using the in-room computer, how will you pull up your presentation? Can you access the folder it's in? Do you have to email it to yourself? Can you access your email through the computer? Do you need to bring your presentation on a USB? Did you create your presentation on a Mac, yet the in-room computer is a PC, so the format may be different? Will you have a remote slide advancer, or will you have to stand by the keyboard to advance your slides? If your presentation has video and audio, will it work? How would you adjust the volume? Chat with someone who's familiar with the room where you will be presenting and the setup, so you can prepare yourself. Walk through the presentation situation in your head and use this checklist. See where you might encounter any issues and try to solve them beforehand. Day off, always have a backup plan for loading your presentation. You don't want to be without it. In fact, I always carry a backup USB with my presentation, just in case I can't access it online. Once your presentation's complete, offer to send out a slide deck for anyone who wants to know more. And then make a plan to treat yourself to something nice for your accomplishment.